Welcome to Q&A Mondays here at MHNews. I'm your host, Matt Haslam. Now, if you have a question for the show, please send them into questions@mhnews.info. You can also comment below on YouTube, on Facebook, or private message us on Facebook with all of those great questions. You can also like and subscribe to our channel while you're down below. Now, last week we did an episode going behind the scenes of a 17-hour-long day on production with PBS, and I'm going to share everything that I learned from on set with the great people there. So go check out that episode right now. We're going to leave a link in the description below to that episode last Thursday. It's a magnificent episode. It's a little bit long compared to our normal episode, but is well worth the extra time. So it is a fantastic episode, and I cannot recommend that one enough. Anyway, on with our questions today. First question today: what editing programs did you first start off using before After Effects, Premiere, etc.? Any you still use to this day? Well, first off, I started with Windows Movie Maker, and that's really crappy program compared to what we're used to now. That's what I started off with, and I don't use that anymore. But it made for some very funny videos and very funny edits. So that's what I started off with. I still have the tapes from that. And by the way, they're old VHS tapes. So that's what I started off with, and then we took them to VHS, and it was, wow, that really sucked. But now we look back and we can realize, hey, that we've grown so much since then. But real editing programs that I started using was, first one was a Magix Video Pro X2, I believe I started off with. And for my audio, I started off with Acoustica Mixcraft 2 or 3.0, and that was primitive. So recently we moved up to Magix Video Pro X4, and that was probably about 2 years ago. We moved up to that, and then we moved up to Acoustica Mixcraft 6.0 and using GoPro Studio for all of our GoPro stuff. And basically, I think every program offers a little bit more than another program, a better way to do it. So for instance, right now we're using Adobe Premiere CC, and then we're also using Adobe Premiere Elements 13, because that Elements 13 has a great image stabilization program inside of it that we use quite a bit for anything that we do with handheld. So I think the image stabilization effect on Elements 13 is a little bit better than the one on Premiere CC. So that's just the way I prefer doing things, and I export between programs. But then I'll use Magix Video Pro X4 and then Acoustica Mixcraft 6.0 now, and that offers me the way to do really great audio for all my productions. And then I'll use GoPro Studio. So really I use about 5 programs constantly for all my productions. But I still end up using the old programs like Acoustica Mixcraft and Magix Video Pro. I still use them all the time, just because I think Magix Video Pro has a little bit better timeline set up to it. So for multicam production, I can use that timeline a little bit easier than I can for Premiere. But for any professional products, I'm definitely going to use Premiere. But I still use those old programs. I just don't use Movie Maker anymore. I sworn off that. But so that's good. Next question. I'm 16 years old and I really want to get into making short movies on YouTube. But how do I start? What is the most important? I know a lot of people are going to say a piece of gear here as the main answer. And if you're looking for a piece of gear, then seriously just go for a camera. Doesn't matter which one. Seriously, just make sure. I mean, like, okay, so nowadays with HD and stuff like that moving up to 4K, yes, you're going to be tempted to buy a 4K camera. Don't do it. But I think one day it's going to move to a thing where, 4K, right now 4K is the new thing, and I think back maybe 2-3 years ago, HD 1920 by 1080 was the big thing. that only the big studios can afford. So I think we're moving to that point where 4K is going to be moving to the affordability thing. But I think for the most part, you know, if you're looking for a camera, go for a 1920 by 1081 because eventually it is going to move up, and those SD cameras that are only 720 aren't going to last, and any production shot in that aren't going to last either, I think. But then again, you know, we have 1920 by 1080 resolution nowadays, and we're still seeing old 40s and 50s movies shot at different resolutions that aren't as good. So they just do a cineform on them. So that's just how it goes. But I think if you're looking for a camera, then go for any good HD camera. Seriously, do your research. But my answer to your question would have to be have fun. First and foremost. What you have to realize in filmmaking is the people are great, the gear is expensive, and the pay isn't always fantastic. Okay? So it's not always a thing where your productions are going to be multi-millions of dollars. It's not going to happen right off the bat. Maybe one day, but not right off the bat. So you have to have fun. And as a 16-year-old, I would just, you know, have as much fun as you possibly can. Go with your friends, make a film, and enjoy every minute of it. Because later on, you're going to have those productions where you're going to have so much fun, but you're also going to have those productions that are just plain off work. And it's not necessarily something that's fun, but it pays the bills. So you're always going to have that as a filmmaker, and it's that balance between fun and work that makes it a little bit of a challenge. So I think have as much fun as you possibly can right now. Next question. Do you have some tips for adding tags for short films on YouTube, for example? First rule of tags on YouTube is never have more than 10. Simple as that. That's the first tip I would have. That's basically a rule nowadays, because YouTube computers don't accept more than 10 tags. If you have more than 10 tags, it actually hurts you in people trying to find your film. And if you have 11 or 12 tags on your film or more, then if people search even for any of those tags, YouTube isn't going to really respond to it very well for your film. So what I would do is I would have 10 tags only, or less if you can do it. But I would go with 10 probably. And the first 5 of those 10 should be very popular films that relate very heavily to your storyline. So for instance, if you're doing a horror film, I wouldn't just choose any horror film. You know, I would choose 5 that the storyline is really close to yours, as close as you can possibly think of. And I would pick 5 films that are mega popular. So they made multi-millions at the box office. They were out there on TV advertising it, you know, the whole 9 yards. Make sure they're very popular films. And then use those as tags. For instance, here at MHNews, because our show is all about filmmaking and stuff like that, and a little bit about music and so on and so forth, what we use as our tags, the first 5 are Film Riot, Indie Mogul, Frugal Filmmaker, DSLR Guide, and Slanted Lens. They're always our first 5 tags, because we know those 5 shows are mega popular in the same space that we're in. So because of that, we're going to use those tags, and anybody searching for Film Riot is going to go and find us in their search results. And they're going to go, well, hey, this show offers a really great atmosphere towards filmmaking as well, so I'm going to check out some of their episodes. And that's how you gain popularity on YouTube a little bit. I'm not going to say you're going to gain it overnight, and there's no real rules in YouTube, so I can't really say too much, but I would just pick 5 that are very popular, closely related to yours. Of course, for us, there's no music side. There's no other channels about music out there, or audio or lighting, so we don't have anybody on that side to tag our videos in. But the next 4 should be maybe popular actors that relate to the characters in your film. So maybe pick a character in your film, the main character, and find another character in another movie that was very close in the mindset of the character, and then tag the actor who played that character in the very popular movie. If it's a very dramatic movie and your character was really good at acting, pick Tom Hanks as one of your tags. And then the very last tag you should have should be the name of your production, the name of your film. Because in case somebody goes out there and they say, I want to search for that short film, if you don't have a tag for it, then how are they going to find it? So have that as one of your tags. But that's what I would do. No more than 10. Next question. Actually, this is a two-parter. What type of lenses you believe are must-have for any production? What are your personal favorites? I don't have any personal favorites. What I suggest is having a kit lens for your camera that zooms. A zoom on. I don't believe too heavily in prime lenses. I just don't like them too much because there's not that versatility. If I'm going to put on a lens, I want to be able to zoom it and stuff. So that's my personal preference, I guess you would say. Unless you're working with like a Red Epic or a big, huge camera that costs a lot of money, then you're going to have primes a lot, but then you're also going to have the time to measure your distance between your actor and your camera lens to figure out what focal length you need. So you're also going to know all that. But have a kit lens and then have a standard lens beyond that. So I'll have the normal 18 to 55 millimeter lens on my Canon T5i, and then I'll have the 55 to 250 millimeter lens, which is a standard lens for that camera. But that's what I use typically. I don't use any adapters or anything like that because I think it takes down the quality of the film. So that's just my personal opinion though. Then the last part of that question is, how involved are you during the post-production phase? Do you work closely with the editors and director, or do you let them have free reign over your precious footage? Typically, I'm very heavily involved with the post-production process. I'm typically the editor on all the productions that I do. I am not, however, I'm not the VFX artist, so anytime I'm working with VFX, I'll bring in one of my friends who owns a VFX company, and I'll have them, in the very beginning, before production, I'll talk with them, see what they need, talk about the whole project, and say, here's what we need to do, and how can we do it? How can I help you and get the footage you need? Then during production, I'll have him on set with me and figuring out exactly what he needs to write down and stuff like that. And he'll be on set to tell me, hey, can we do it this way? Because it's going to help me in the end, so on and so forth. And then I'll hand that over to him. But I'm, again, involved in that because he'll do a render, send it to me, and I'll say, okay, that's a good outline. Go and color it, and then send it back and forth. But that's typically how that goes. But for like studio stuff, big studio stuff, like for PBS or for HBO Showtime, I'll send them the footage and I'll ask them beforehand, how can I help you in editing, and what resolutions do you need at, what frame rate, all that kind of stuff. Then I'll go out and shoot it, send it to them, and typically what happens with big studios is they'll edit all on their own, but there are occasions where they send me a final edit and they say, well, they'll send me an edit and then say, hey, can you make notes for me of different things we can do to improve the film? Maybe make some notes of a little bit of color correction you need to do a certain time. So they'll give me an edit with time code on it, and then I'll make my notes, send it back to them, and so I'm involved in that way. But typically on big studio stuff, you're not involved at all in editing. That's all on them. But for the most part, in productions that I do, I'm the sole editor on it, so I'm very involved. And, really for me, having someone take free reign over my precious footage isn't that big of a deal because typically I know who I'm giving my footage to, and I trust them because, they're either better than me at editing or they're on a comparable level. I trust people with my footage. But that's our questions for today. If you'd like your question read on the show, please email us at questions@mhnews.info. You can also comment below on YouTube or Facebook, or private message us on Facebook. So there's plenty of ways to get your questions to us. I had a question come in this week. How do I get my questions to you guys? Get your questions to us. So thanks for joining us here today, and see us back here every Monday and Thursday for brand new episodes. Have a good one, people.